differently.
Let's start 2021 off on a positive note. A positive hot take, if you will. And I know people are going to disagree with me as soon as they see the title for this video, but I liked Wonder Woman 1984. And I know that there are a lot of criticisms towards this movie. People have called it dumb. The plot makes no sense. The CGI is bad. It's a mess. It's boring. It's too long, etc. I've heard it all. And you know what? I even agreed with some of those criticisms, but I still found myself being in love with this movie. And the reason for that is because I bought into all of the emotion that was being presented to me. You can tell that Wonder Woman 1984 is a movie that is made with so much passion and love for the character that it's hard not for me to reciprocate those emotions when watching this film. It's stupid to get angry over someone's emotional response to the art that they consume. So I'm not afraid to say that I loved Wonder Woman 1984 and it worked for me. This is a movie that is not afraid to be a comic book movie. It's not afraid to wear its heart on its sleeve, and that's what I adore about it. Gal Gadot still embodies Wonder Woman in a way that I don't think anyone could have ever imagined. She is just picture perfect in the role, and the way that she delivers this dialogue, no matter how corny it can be at times, is perfect for this genre. When it comes to comic book movies, I think that there are a few different ways to approach them, and the biggest and probably most popular method right now is the dark and gritty approach. You make your super serious comic book movie that might win you an Oscar. You could make your Avengers with likable characters, snappy dialogue, and a tone that fits families. Or you could make an ode to 1978 Superman, the classic Richard Donner film, and that is exactly what Wonder Woman 1984 reminded me of, and I loved every second of it. This movie is so wholesome and goofy and entertaining. I love the fact that this movie prioritizes the fact that it is based on such a good-natured concept. Superheroes are supposed to inspire us. They're supposed to help us see the better parts of ourselves, and Wonder Woman did that in her first movie, and I think that is a big reason that so many of us gravitated to that movie during a time of a murdering Batman. And in this movie, that same woman, that same heroine returns, and I think it's fantastic. It works in every sense of the way. Wonder Woman is a character that is not going to punch people, because that's not going to solve anything. She's not going to torture someone to get information. Instead, so many of the action sequences in this movie are predicated on the idea of saving people first and then dealing with the issue second. And I think that demonstrates a really profound understanding of the character, and I think Patty Jenkins is the perfect filmmaker to take on these movies, because it is just so abundantly clear that she loves Wonder Woman and she loves making these movies. This movie honestly reminds me of the animated DC series, and I mean that in the best way possible. Yes, the wire work is a little over the top and goofy, but the action sequences are entertaining, the performances are there. Gal Gadot and Chris Pine's chemistry is as electric as ever. And it's pretty clear why they wanted to bring him back, because that relationship is so special and it's so tangible, and it really just delivers a lot of emotion in the movie. And it's a highlight for many of us. So that worked for me. I know that there is a lot of criticism surrounding the way that Steve came back, but you know what? I don't care. This is a comic book movie, and I'm not trying to make excuses for it, but what I am saying is comic books are inherently kind of dumb. So when you make a movie about them and you stay true to those elements, that's fine with me. If you tell me this is a magic wishing rock and it grants wishes, okay, that's fine. That's enough for me. And maybe I'm just a nerd, but I don't need 20 lines of expository dialogue to explain that to me. I don't need the movie to stop in its tracks and try to provide logic within the narrative. In fact, I think the worst parts of Wonder Woman 1984 are when it's a little cynical, when it seems a little unsure of itself. And yes, this movie has a million different ideas, but I think the themes of desire and greed work really well against the backdrop of the 80s. Because I've seen a lot of people say that there was no reason to set this film during the 80s. I disagree. Thematically, I think it actually makes a lot of sense. The 1980s were a decade of triumphalism, backpatting, and excess. And those are prominent themes throughout this film. The entire premise of the narrative is predicated on the idea that we all want something that we can't have, or we all want something that may actually be detrimental to us. And I think the movie does a good job of conveying that. Yes, there are 1,000 other ideas going on at the same time, and it doesn't always work, but for me, one idea that does is the characterization of Maxwell Lord. Maxwell Lord is over the top. He's chewing the scenery. I love what Pedro Pascal is doing here. Everybody might not, but it worked for me, and that's fine. But I do think there is a little bit of nuance to Max Lord. I think there's more subtlety than people are giving it credit for. Maxwell Lord is a businessman. He's a con man, a grifter, but he's also a victim. He was a victim earlier in his life. So the way that he copes with that is by victimizing others. Now that he's grown up, and now that he has the power, the victim becomes the abuser. And this through line is also carried through with the character of Barbara Minerva, who becomes Cheetah. And I think her character could have been handled a little bit better. Yes, you had the original origin for Cheetah sitting right there, and I think that might have been a better option. But ultimately, I understand what the movie was trying to go for. I don't think it necessarily executed Barbara's arc as well as they did with Maxwell Lord, but I can understand the intent. And I love the callback to Michelle Pfeiffer's Selena Kyle in Batman Returns. She is someone who wishes to be like Diana. She wants to be seen by a world that has ignored her and made her feel small. And there is a sense of progression initially, but then at the end we just get the explanation that, oh, it was the Rock all along. So yes, this movie certainly has its flaws, but I think it has enough to say, and I think it's well made to where I'm able to overlook those flaws. This is a movie about desire, about greed, about love, and I think that is what makes Wonder Woman stand out amongst every other superhero. She is a character that goes out of her way to show empathy, even to her enemies, and I love the fact that the end of this movie is Wonder Woman delivering a speech to the entire world about having empathy, about loving each other. Because I think that the best third acts in superhero movies are the ones where the hero and the villain just talk. I don't need a giant CGI schlockfest. I don't need a fist fight. As cool as they may look sometimes, that's not ultimately why I watch these movies. I do think that there is a problem with this movie as well, in the sense that there is a lot going on that is told through us through dialogue. But that same thing has already been shown to us visually. And I think that those visuals were enough. I wish that Patty Jenkins trusted the audience a little bit more. That visual storytelling is enough. Actions speak louder than words, especially when it comes to a visual medium like film. Yes, Wonder Woman 1984 feels like a movie that could have used another rewrite before the movie officially went into production and began principal photography. But it's a movie that's made with so much heart, and I like that about this movie. I like the characters. I like the filmmaking. I like the nods to the comic books. This movie is not afraid to be what it is. It reminds me of Richard Donner's Superman. It reminds me of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. And quite frankly, I adore that. This movie gave me the invisible jet, and that's something that I didn't even know I wanted until I saw it. It was such a magical moment, and I was completely lost in it. Do I think that this movie might have played better with audiences had it premiered solely in theaters? Yes, I do, because this movie feels very much like an experience. But that was not the case. We have to work with what we're given, and most of us watch this on HBO Max. Wonder Woman 1984 is a movie with its fair share of flaws. Yes, it's clunky. The plot is messy. The logic is not necessarily there. And the movie does feel a little bit cynical and jaded at times. But the movie is also full of so much heart. The performances are fantastic. Pedro Pascal almost steals the show as Maxwell Lord. Gal Gadot, again, is picture perfect as Wonder Woman. She is this character. Chris Pine is so good as Steve Trevor. This man needs to get more roles. Kristen Wiig is good as Barbara Minerva. I just wish that they had done a little bit better of a job with the execution of her character arc. This movie is wholesome. It's goofy. It's fun. It's entertaining. It is not afraid to be what it is. Yes, I think it has flaws, and honestly, my biggest issue with this movie is the fact that I think it's just a little bit too long. It's bloated, and you feel the runtime, especially towards the end of the second act, but there are so many moments within this movie that provide such satisfying visuals or character beats that I think it makes up for it. And ultimately, the kind of people that are going to watch this movie are fans. And do I think this movie is good for fans? I do. Having said that, I recommend Wonder Woman 1984 to everyone. If you would like to tell me how wrong I am, feel free to do so in the comments section below, because I do know that there are a lot of people that don't like this movie. But I did. I think it's a movie that the whole family can enjoy. I think it's a movie that DC fans are going to enjoy. And it's definitely a movie that Wonder Woman fans are going to enjoy. It's a movie that said, forget the plot, forget logic, forget all of the dumb, sycophantic things that internet critics nitpick about. Let's just make a movie about a character that we love and make the audience feel things. And I respect that. Thank you for watching, ladies and gentlemen. Disney Shills. I will see you next time. May your heart be your guiding key.